looks like we've got folks from all the different districts, so that's great. So tonight we're going to talk about Recharter and what's Recharter about. So the BSA has a system, I think we're all probably aware of it, where each year our units have the opportunity to refresh their roster and basically update and declare the people that will be continuing on for the next year, and that's youth and adults. There's a couple of points of the Recharter process. First is about the longevity of the unit itself. So we're basically determining that the unit is going to continue on into the next year. And then we want to know about all of the membership of that unit, and are they going to continue on into the next year? In the Grand Canyon Council, we have a Recharter cycle that starts on the 1st of August and runs through the 31st of July. That's our Recharter year, and it's designed to roughly match the school year. So we go at this time of year in May, we start talking about Recharter because we have a Recharter season that's coming up that we want to support. And so I'm going to talk about a few things to be aware of relative to the Recharter season. We're having this meeting tonight. I'm going to actually real quickly here, to share. Oh, oops. Let me go to.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm going to share a screen here for you. There we go. Got it. Share. So on the council website, if you go to grandcanyonbsa.org/recharter, I'm going to caveat that the intent ultimately is that this is going to be in the support center. But right now, if you just go to grandcanyonbsa.org/recharter, you will find our comprehensive Grand Canyon Council Recharter page. And this page is live. It's up there today. You all can access it. And this is where you can find all of the information that you need that relates to the Recharter process. This page can be used by units. This page can be used by commissioners. This page can be used by district folks. So things that you need, if you have any questions about Recharter, you can talk to your district commissioner, you can talk to me, you can talk to Davis or Kathy. You can come to this website. Lots of good sources of information. A few things to note. From a timeline perspective, June 1st is an important day. It's a double up day because we're going to have the Recharter portal open. That means that units will be able to enter into the Recharter system and start their Recharter process. Secondarily, that is roundtable for the month of June. And in that month, we're going to have a presentation kind of similar to this one, but it'll be focused at units, and we're going to go through the unit Recharter process with our units to get them educated and up to speed for those that are new to the process. And then they will have a period of 2 months to complete their unit Recharter, and they want to have that Recharter completed by the end of July. There's a few different important reasons to have that completed by the end of July, and we'll talk about that. Once we get to the end of July, on the 1st of August, the unit still exists if they haven't completed their Recharter. However, a couple of things happen. One, the fees will go up. I'm going to talk more about fees in a little bit, but it's really important that we communicate that completion of Recharter prior to 7/31 means that we guarantee fees from this year. We know after the 1st of the year, fees are going to go up. Now, there's another period of time. By the end of September, we have an event that's called a lapse. And at the end of September, any unit that hasn't completed their recharter will lapse. And that means their unit basically dissolves and goes away. A lot of bad things happen if that happens. One, we lose a unit. Two, we lose access to internet advancement and some of the tools that our units rely on. The unit loses their insurance coverage. The unit loses potentially the right to their number. Their unit number gets released, and someone else theoretically could come in and claim a unit number. So it's really important that we communicate to our units that they get their recharter completed. And really, I want to communicate that we get it completed before the end of July. And there's important reasons for that, but we'll talk about that. Now, on this page, we will find, like I said, we'll have the various tools. One thing that's not on here today, but will be on here, for those of you who are returning commissioners that have been around, you'll know from the last couple of years, the council, really Kathy and Davis, maintain an ongoing snapshot Excel document that tells us the status of all of our units. So we as commissioners can go into that page and see where every one of our units is at in the recharter process. So it's a really helpful way to be able to go in, and this thing gets updated about twice a week. So you can go in there and you can see, as of the last couple of days, where are your units at? Have they started the process? Have they completed online recharter, but they're waiting to pay? Have they completed charter and paid, but they're on hold for some other reason? And it'll tell us about that. So really useful tool. This page will have that information. And I want to make sure everyone knows about that and takes advantage of that. I'm going to talk about the recharter system in a minute, but I want to talk about a few other things first. Number one has to do with fees. What you see on the screen are the national recharter fees as they are today. And what you see here, we have a national annual unit charter fee of $100. That means every unit pays $100, and they only pay that once. So if unit 1, 2, 3 has 5 kids or 50 kids, they pay a $100 recharter fee. And then all the other fees are paid on a per person basis. So we have a national registration fee for youth that's $75. So if there's 10 kids in a unit, you pay 75 times 10. If you've got adults in the unit, if you've got 10 adults, you're going to pay $45 per adult. Then on top of that, we have our council activities fee. That's the $50. That's the same as last year and has not gone up. And then we have, and there's no fee for adults in the local council fee. And then we have the Scouts Life that members can have a subscription to, and that's $15 a person. Now, I saw a question about, is the national fee paid every year? And the answer to that is yes. So all of these fees are an annual payment. We pay our recharter fee, the unit fee, plus all the member fees once a year when we recharter. Now, as many of you are aware, we got very good news about a month ago that the district court upheld the BSA National Restructuring Plan, effectively ending our 3-year bankruptcy period. That's great news for Scouting. It allows us to move forward. The BSA's restructuring plan went effective, and we are looking forward to the future, which is great for Scouting. Now, what we know as a result of that whole process, there is a 2 point some odd billion dollar settlement associated with that. The national BSA is in pretty bad financial condition. We know we have raising insurance costs at a national level. And so I have been told from the Chief Scout Executive, in fact, I was in a meeting in February and I was sitting 10 feet away from the Chief Scout Executive, and he told me and everyone in that room that the fees are going up. He told me some numbers then that are quite up. Since that time, National has walked back that a little bit and hasn't committed to a number yet. So I don't know what the fees are going to be yet, to be honest. We have the national annual meeting that will occur the last week of this month in Atlanta. I'll be at that meeting, as will some others. And I suspect we will hear what the fees are at the national annual meeting. So probably for the June roundtable, I hope we will be able to communicate what those fees are. Now, what's really critical, and Davis has put it into the chat, key takeaway number one, what we know is that fees are going to go up. We just don't know by how much. But what we do also know is that if people finish their recharter in a timely manner by the 31st of July, they're going to lock in the fees that we have for this year. So as commissioners, I want to doubly encourage that we communicate to our units. There's a tremendous benefit in getting their recharters done on time because the costs are going to go up, and people don't want to be faced with whatever that is because it's an unknown. So we want to communicate. We want to communicate that. Questions about the new Scout fee of the $25 a Scout. Davis has listed that here. That does still exist, but as he mentioned, the new Scout fee, and this is for brand new members joining the organization, there's that one-time $25 fee. The way the system is now set up is that you really shouldn't have new members going into a recharter. And here's why. Now that we have online registration, people can register, whether they're youth or adults, online, live, anytime, and they go into the system automatically. And anyone that registers starting the 1st of this month, this is the same as last year. If a new Scout registers tomorrow, they are going to register online and they're going to pay their fees online. And the system is set up to pay through the end of this recharter year, which is now about 2.5 months from now. It's July 31st. And they pay all of next year. So if I join tomorrow, I'm automatically paid through this year and next year. And so I pay my $25 fee with that transaction. And I don't have to be, you don't worry about that person as part of the recharter because they're automatically chartered forward through to the next year. So hopefully that makes sense. But so if you have a new adult, a new youth, get them to register online through the typical process. You know, go to Be a Scout, pick on your unit, hit join, go through the online registration process, and then they're set. You don't have to worry about those folks in the recharter. What's great about this, and I think this is about the 3rd or so year that they've had it set up this way. What's great about this, for those of you that have been around a long time, we'll remember back to the days when someone would put in a paper application, the recharter would go in and then someone would put in a paper application and they aren't on the recharter, and then they would get registered and the recharter would process and then someone would drop off and disappear. those days are thankfully gone. Part of this new process allows us to avoid that. So as Davis has put into the chat, we want to have that everyone register online. Even if you've already started your recharter process, if your unit processor goes in there, it's June 10th, they start the recharter, and someone comes along and wants to join on June 20th, that's okay. Just have them go ahead and register, and that recharter, they'll pay through the next year, and you won't have any problems with that. How do you know not to worry about those folks in Recharter? How do you identify folks that have already been paid through July 24? So they should show up on the list, and I'm going to go through some slides that shows the system, but they should show up as being already paid, and therefore you don't need to pay for them a second time. They'll show up a little differently on the system, and they'll have that recharter rate of $0. Okay, so that's that. Now, a few other, what I'm going to say, let's call errata, or things to note about the recharter system. And it's this sort of light blue box that's up here on the screen. When someone's in the Recharter system, and I'm going to skip ahead in the user guide here real quickly. This is a big problem with the Recharter system, and I've spoken to National about this and asked them to change this. I doubt that they have. So we're going to have to assume it's the same. And on the last page of the Recharter, the units are presented with the page that you see on the screen. And this page has a really big error that we need to communicate. And this is another area where commissioners can communicate. There's 3 ways to pay. There's a credit card that charges a 3% fee. There is an e-check that's $1. And then there's this erroneous pay at council, no extra fee. That is not true. We cannot pay at council. There is an extra fee, and it's a very big extra fee. We're not set up to do that, and we do not want to have our units accidentally select pay at council because I want to save $1, and then find out that they have a big fee that they're stuck with. So it's important that we communicate. We're going to communicate it at roundtable. We're going to have it on the web page. We're going to get out this message as best we can, but we really want to make sure that people understand that they should not click that pay at council, because the other problem with the pay at council, unless this is changed, once they click that, it's a no, there's no way back. We can't, at the council, pick them back to a state where they can pay by credit card or by the e-check. They're kind of stuck in that mode.
Hey, Jacob, that was my question. Once that is clicked, there's no going back to it. Nothing that we can do to fix or change.
That is right. That's
okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. And Davis, the $25 convenience fee, that's per person?
Yes, sir, that is.
So if you have, so that's what Davis has written on the screen there is actually a little erroneous. It's not $25 versus $1. It's $25 times the number of people versus $1. So if you've got 10 scouts, then your desire to save that $1 e-check fee is going to get you a $250 processing bill. We do not want anyone to be faced with that. And so this is really a key thing as commissioners. We've got to communicate to our units. Please do not go to pay at council for no extra fee, because that is not the case. Any questions on that payment?
So you're saying if they did, they would have to pay their, whatever, they're basically late. I'm not sure, but they'd have to pay the $25 per scout. And apparently they think they might be able to bring a check physically to council.
That's what they think.
Yeah.
And so we are trying to communicate that we don't want folks to do that, because we don't want them to have to pay that extra fee. And we don't want to have them wasting their time driving across town or driving down from up in the mountains or whatever to hand in a check in the first place, when they can just do an e-check for $1.
Would they potentially be subject to the higher August 1st plus rates, or just the 25?
I mean, if someone did this at June 15th, no, they wouldn't be subject to the raised rates, because that would get processed. Now, there may, if someone's doing it manually like this, there is potential for a delay. So if someone brought a check in on July 30th or July 31st, it's possible that it would delay till after, and we wouldn't want to have to deal with that. But the real clear message is, please pay online. And the 3% fee with the credit card isn't ideal. The e-check is the better option, and really the best option if people have that ability.
I assume you've already done this, but there's no way to get that button off this page.
I have spoken to the person at National who programs this, and have explained in detail about the problem that this causes. And they listened to what I said, but their staff is so limited. I don't think they have changed it, unfortunately. So for now, I think we're kind of stuck in that boat. And so that's just an important thing for us. Now, the good news is, like last year, we only had, Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, we only had a couple of units that kind of fell off that cliff accidentally. And so I think through real clear and consistent messaging, we can help our units understand not to do that.
Right. And yes, and you mentioned earlier that if they do go off the cliff, we can't push them one step back in the recharter process. That's also true. What Kathy was able to do for the units that had this hiccup happen to them is she was able to nullify their recharter, and they functionally started the whole thing over. She wasn't able to back it up by one step. She was able to void the whole thing, and they started at the beginning because they decided that was the best solution for them.
Yeah, which, to save a $250 fee or something like that, I probably would take that option too. But we can avoid that and keep things simple if we just, again, really spread that message. So that's one of the really, really critical takeaways from the discussion tonight. I see Russ has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. My question is, who should be putting out a disclaimer? Would that come from council, from the district, or from the individual or respective commissioners to their units, so that they understand that that's a no-do?
Great question, and the answer is all three. This is so important that I want to over communicate it. We're gonna have it on the website from the council. We're going to have it in the council newsletter. We're going to have it at the council roundtable. I want district leadership communicating this. I want individual unit commissioners communicating this. It's a very simple problem to avoid, and we know that no mode of communication catches everybody. We've got lots of units that don't attend roundtable. We've got lots of units that don't, that aren't plugged into the hub or the newsletter or whatever. So if we're all communicating some of these key messages, and really the critical ones to communicate, because at the end of the day, there's really maybe three really important things to take away from this whole deal. One is we want units to stay around. We want them to recharter. We want their youth to recharter and stay in the program. So number one is please do your recharter and retain as much of your membership as possible. That's number one. Number two is save yourself a lot of money by paying this year's fees and not next year's fees. And so that means get your recharter done on time, get it done by the end of July, and don't slide into August. So that's really key message number two. And then number three is also money related. It's what we just talked about. We really want to communicate to people that we want them to pay ideally the e-check. That's by far and away the best option, but the credit card is better than most likely the manual payment at council. So that's that. Now a couple other just little items to touch on. Another thing, this isn't a big deal. It's literally pocket change, but I just want people to be aware. Last year, this came up some. You'll notice that the local council it's actually going to show up on the recharter as $50.12. It seems crazy, but that's what they're going to see, and the reason for that is that the national recharter system is set up that, or the national registration system is set up to prorate by months, and there is no way to divide $50 by 12. But when you have $50 times 100 plus 12 divided by 12. Wait, maybe I did that wrong. The point, whatever it is, I should have done that better. But the way the equal division to get an equal number for the 12 months of the year, they add a couple of cents on there to make the system work properly. So if you get questions from people about, why are there these couple of extra weird cents in the system, that's all that is. It's really pocket change, but that occasionally causes confusion for people. That's the major stuff for the sort of the critical things to know. So now I want to take a minute and go into the actual system itself. And the way this thing works, we are now in our second year of Internet Recharter 2.0. And again, for those of you that have been around for a while, you'll remember the old days where we had the packets and the recharter codes. Oh, there it is. It's $50.04. I told you it's pocket change. And the $50.04 is what divides up equally so that you get this round number per month in the system. And it's just a computer thing. Anyway, though, Internet Recharter, we're in our second year of it now nationally. The system is way, way better, way easier than the old ways. We don't have unit recharter codes, all that sort of stuff. Units will go through the Internet Advancement system. They can log into Internet Advancement. Now, if they log into Internet Advancement today, they will see the stuff that they normally see. They'll see, the reports and the where they enter in merit badges or activities or those sorts of things. After the 1st of June, this little guy right here will pop up. It's the recharter box, and someone will be able to click into Recharter and start that recharter process. And once they're in the Recharter system, they're going to see a this way here. They're going to see the unit roster. They're going to see the information about the unit, the information about the chartered organization. They'll see the listing of the membership of the unit. Right now, we're seeing some adults, we're seeing some youth. This is going to tell us right away if we have YPT issues. Everyone should have their criminal background checks covered at this point, because that's done when they register. So this will just show up in this system. You have the ability to, you can remove members if needed. You can also, there's this changing position item right here. So you can select that you want to change a person and change the role of that person for adult membership. You can always use this refresh roster, and that will, if you're in the middle of your Recharter process, you can do that refresh and it's going to bring up the most current roster. And this thing is syncing real time with the BSA database. So it'll reflect if new people have joined, new adults have joined, that sort of thing. And so you work your way through. There is this way to add members. What I want to encourage us is, let's encourage our units to not add members through the Recharter. This is a step that tends to cause delays. If people will handle their additions outside of Recharter, we know that they'll have current YPT, they'll have their criminal background checks in, this is for adults, they'll have their payments done, and you won't have any problems in the Recharter system itself. So encourage people, just go online, register. Even if you've already started Recharter, that's okay. Just go online and get registered, and just use the Recharter to retain or drop people. So we're going to skip adding new, skip that. Inviting members is addition. Again, if we want to invite people, we should invite them through the regular membership system and have them coming online. Now, under managed members, we do have this ability to remove from the Recharter. That is one of the important parts of the Recharter process, is removing people. And this could be that someone moved away. This could be that in a Cub Scout pack, an Arrow of Light Scouts bridged across to a new unit. This could be that a 17 or 18-year-old scout aged out. These are all reasons that people might leave. So we'll check on that name and hit manage members and remove from Recharter, and then they'll come on to the list to come off of the unit. Ross, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, when you said we don't want them to add new, I mean, I understood the part about the scouts. I do know with the change in nationals where they're saying, oh, any adult who comes on an outing with you now has to be a registered on your thing. I think we're going to have 15 new adults coming on. So how do you suggest we handle those then if we're not adding them as part of Recharter? Yeah,
so a couple of points on that, and I'm glad you brought that up. So yes, there is a new policy that starting the 1st of September, any adult going on an overnight activity with a unit has to be a registered scouter. There's a few little caveats and asterisks for cub units and things like that, but for simplicity's sake, let's just say that they've got to be registered in that manner. So 2 points about that. Number one, units can handle that in a number of ways. There's going to be some units that might say that they just want to have every parent get registered. That's one approach. Some units might say every family has to have at least one person registered. That's another approach. Other units might just say that only those folks that are going camping on a regular basis need to be registered. However, that's a process they can decide. The first thing I want to communicate is, and not that I want to advocate kicking the can down the road, but this is important. And this issue takes effect on September 1st. Recharter is due on July 31st. If a unit really has their act together and is on top of this now, then I applaud them, and that's great. Proceed, do what you need to do. But I'm worried about a lot of units might be messing around trying to figure out how they're going to implement this in their unit, and it's going to cause them to slide past July 31st because they're still chasing down 2 parents to get their YPT completed or this or that. And it's going to delay their recharter, and it's going to kick them up into those higher fees. And so message number 1 is, yes, this is real. Yes, this is important, but I'd like for people not to intertangle it with recharter. Unless, again, if someone's really got their act together, by all means, go for it. But the first thing on down the road is we've got to get recharter done. We still have time after that to deal with this other issue, and I would hate for anyone to pay extra fees because they're chasing after people to get registered for a policy that's going to take effect in September. Now, to answer your question, though, for those that want to do it, again, we have the ability to register online, adults and youth. And so the proper way to do this is in the month of June, in the month of July, even in the month of August, have those parents go online, go through the registration process, and they'll complete their YPT, they'll log in their paperwork, they'll get into the system, and it's detached from recharter. That will be the best way to ensure that units are getting their recharter done. They're not setting themselves up to have a delayed recharter because of a missing YPT or something like that. So that's the recommendation. If they want to, however they decide they want to handle that program, have their folks get registered online outside of the recharter process. And whether they choose to do it prior to recharter or after recharter, they're doing it online and not encumbering their recharter process.
So will they have to pay $45 at that time?
They will.
Okay.
In fact, they'll have to pay slightly more. And the reason is if you register on July 1st, they're going to pay for 13 months. They're going to pay for the month of July at a prorated. They're going to pay 1/12 of 45, and then they're going to pay 45 for the next year.
Mhm.
So it's going to be that slightly more. If they register on June 1st, they're going to pay for 2 months prorated plus all of next year, so on and so forth. If they were to join on the 1st of August, they're going to pay for a year. If they join on the 1st of September, they're going to prorate 11 months, so on and so forth.
So the issue, at least I know in our unit, would be we actually pay for most of the adult leader fees.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't really allow for that. So then there'll be this motivation to try to do those folks as part of recharter. So is there a downside to doing that if a unit's saying I want to pay for those?
There is a downside to adding people on the recharter.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathy's involved in a lot of the national registrar groups and stuff like that for them to take care of business on these things. And she reports to like her comment to me every year is, oh my gosh, why are councils continuing to allow people to get added on at the Recharter level? 90% of what registrars are fixing nationally are when you get someone who gets added because I can just plug their name in and they get added, but the youth protection isn't there, or they're lacking some other thing. So the vastest majority of projects or things that create problems and stop the Recharter is people getting added during the process. Now, it's great of your troop to cover that charge for folks. Maybe the solution for this is after these adult leaders have completed their youth protection training, have them come and let's register them at the troop or at the committee meeting where we've got the troop credit card ready, and we'll just use this card for that person so we can cycle them through without them reaching for their pocket if you guys don't want to reimburse them. But it runs a big risk of messing up the Recharter, and like nationally, that's where most of them come from. So.
Yeah, that was gonna be my recommendation. And again, admirable if the unit has the means to pay for their adults, that's wonderful. Yeah, I would say my recommendation is for the unit to come up with a process, whether it's you pay and I'll reimburse you, whether it's a when you join, I'll just give you this check. It's when you join, as Davis suggested, we'll have a join night and do it all together, and then you run the troop credit card. However you want to do it. It's really recommended to not do it as part of the Recharter, and particularly adults. Adults are over 90% of the Recharter problems that exist nationally are tied to adult applications holding up online Recharters. Because otherwise, Internet Recharter 2.0 is really, really smooth. But adding adults is definitely a hiccup.
Okay.
Eric. I see you got a hand up.
There we go. Okay, so after I'm listening to all this, especially I'm my first year here, I'm learning all this process. So I'm thinking from my perspective as my role as a commissioner, working with the troops and packs. So if, like for instance, you don't know how many kids are coming back when you speak with them, and if you have we have July and you're due by August 1st. Then the school year starts, you go, oh, well, that's more expensive because, Johnny wants to join or rejoin or is coming back. And I don't know how many kids are when you actually are putting the kids in. Here's your number of kids in your group and the chartering. It seems kind of late in the game.
Yeah, it's a difficulty. And I would say the best practice would be for a unit to right now in May have a dialogue with their unit and try to assess how many people are coming back. And that's part of like the back to pack process and some of that. It's trying to assess going forward who's coming back. And you probably can find out, and I've got a troop. I can sit down with my troop. I don't even have to talk to anyone. I can sit down on a roster, look at it today, go down, and probably with 95% accuracy predict who's going to stay and who's not going to stay. Of course, I'm going to talk to them anyway, but I've got a pretty good pulse on that. Now, once you go through that, you talk to the people, you see how many you can get. Now, there's going to be some that you can't reach. They've left town early, or they're non-responsive, or they're hard to get a hold of, or whatever. Then you've got to make some decisions. It's important to recharter the unit. So I would not hold up. If you've got a unit of 50 kids and you've got 5 kids that you just can't get a hold of, but you know about the rest, I would recommend that if it's really unclear whether that scout's going to continue, you have the option to drop them and re-register those scouts in the fall. There's some added cost, unfortunately, to them, but you save the overall unit a lot of money going that way, rather than, unfortunately, if you hold the whole unit back, waiting on a couple of folks, then those prices are going to go up. And that's not anything that we're doing here. That's just unfortunately the reality from national, and you'll be subject to that. So my recommendation as a unit commissioner, encourage units, do your unit assessment in May, in April, in May, even in June, get a sense of who is going to stay. If you've got critical mass for your unit, go ahead and proceed with your recharter with as many people as you know, and there may be a few that you have to mop up after recharter once the school year starts. Kelly.
Yeah, just to echo what Jacob said, we've been, by doing things out of the goodness of our heart, we have been burned several times for the complete cost of a kid for a year. And so I really would suggest, if you don't have the money in hand, you don't register the boy or girl or the adult. The adults can do it on their own, they can pay on their own, but if you don't have the money in the hand, don't register them. They can go at some, when they make up their mind and they pull out their checkbook, they can take care of it through the council online registration.
Yep.
That kid's not going to be harmed because he wasn't registered for 3 weeks. But your unit, if you're running close to funds, you're going to be wasting unit money.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right, and the best approach. And it comes back around to why we're having this conversation now. I want the commissioner force to be out in the field now, communicating to our units. Now is the time to be thinking about this. If people start thinking about recharter on July 15th, which unfortunately there are units that do that. If you start on July 15th, I know half your unit's going to be on vacation, out of state, you're making calls, you're sending emails, you can't get a hold of people. It creates a lot of challenges.
Yeah, I think
right.
One thing, at least it's worked for us, the process is you communicate it, you send out your survey now to find out, you'll get your 80% response rate back to at least have a good idea who they are. You communicate clearly out to the troop that the last 2 weeks of July you got to get paid. If you're not paid, you're not registered. And then literally the 2 meetings before the end of July are registration events. We're going to have a swim party. It's a registration event. The actual first meeting before August, if this is your last chance, parents, we've communicated it over and over. And, and there are times where if someone comes to us and says, hey, there's a financial, okay, then we'll register them and we know what the story is. If it's just a non-response, it's like, well, yeah, you're not on the charter.
Yep. Good point. Keith.
Yeah, I was about to say some of those same things. Basically, don't pay to charters to put somebody on your charter that you don't have the money for, and don't hold up your charter for 1 or 2 people and end up affecting the whole rest of the unit.
Right.
Those are 2 lessons that I learned over the years when I was the unit commission, or not the unit chair.
You're the committee chair for many years. Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah. Good word for the wise.
Yeah.
Dick.
Yes, we kind of approach the fee structure a little differently out here in Sonora and Sunset. What we do is we let them know that if they get their recharters in before the 1st of August, that the current fee is considered an early bird fee, because the fees are going up as of August the 1st. So you can take advantage of the early bird fee until August the 1st. And at that point in time, you pay the real freight. And that seems to motivate a lot of folks to getting it done by about the 15th of July.
Yeah. So that's the carrot approach of saying, hey, you're getting this extra benefit. A little bit of psychology there. Yeah. Great point. Okay. So continuing along, we don't want to ideally we're not wanting to add folks. Group roster, we're refreshing the roster as we go. Validate recharter and pay. When we get to the end, a reminder to folks that units do have a minimum amount of membership required to recharter. So this is the other end of the problem. And when we're talking about we don't want to pay for people that aren't in, and we don't need to. But at the other end of the extreme, if the unit's so small that they're on the cusp of not meeting the minimums, then they've got extra reason to make sure they know the disposition of their membership, because you have to have, Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 5 youth is the minimum now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and then the required adult leadership varies depending on the unit type. So typically you've got to have, like for a troop, you've got to have a key 3. So you have an institution head. We have an institution head in the COR that can be the same person or otherwise, a committee chair and a scoutmaster. And then you have to have a committee of, is it 2 or 3 committee members on top of that?
A chair and 2 committee members.
2 chair and 2 committee members. So it's a
Conversationally, 5 adults is just the easiest way to do it.
Right.
5 adults.
Right. And then in the Cub pack, you have that, and then you also have to have a den leader associated with the dens that you have. So that's your minimum requirements. So if you've got a unit that's got 2 adults and 3 scouts or something like that, they're going to have a rechartering problem. That's a different issue. They should speak with their commissioner, and probably need to get their DE involved in a scenario like that as well. Hopefully we don't have a lot of those types of scenarios. Russ.
Yeah, what I'd like to add here is that if all of our commissioners are doing their assessments in a proper manner, in a timely manner, it shouldn't get to this point. They
Right.
should be well aware that a unit is on the cusp and needs some help, and be calling in the troops. We rally the wagons, bring whatever resources to bear that we can to help them through that hard period. So if we're looking at possibly dropping you and not allowing a charter because there are a couple of young people short, then that's a failure on our part.
Agreed. And so yeah, hopefully we should be doing our assessments and communicating that. Now, in a scenario where there is a situation where a unit isn't wanting to recharter for whatever the reason, whether it's number of members or leadership issues or charter issues, whatever, ideally, the goal is always that we want to recharter 100%. Now, realistically, like Davis said, national average retention rate's about 80%. We've been around 90%, which is great. To the extent we occasionally lose units, as commissioners, another job that we can do is look to the membership of that unit and see if we can help those members find their way to another unit rather than just letting them go, because there are other ways to help those scouts continue in the program if the unfortunate situation that their unit's going away, we don't want to lose them. And unfortunately that happens where, for no fault of their own, their unit folds around them and those scouts just kind of go off to the wind. So let's have a pulse on that as well. Okay, continuing on along here, when we get to the end of this, process, we have this point where we're going to validate the charter. It's going to tell us that that you have the appropriate amount of leaders. It should tell you that all your leaders have YPT current, because the system will have communicated that to you. You're going to hit proceed to payment. And then you'll get to this page that we spent a little bit of time earlier on, where you'll enter in your information and go here. Now, one other thing that our biggest problem last year with our recharters, and one that I think we will largely avoid this year, but the last thing we'll talk about, if a unit is new for the first time, the national system does not have a connection yet to their bank or their financial institution where their funds are going to come from. So they're going to put their information into this system, and the system does this thing called Microdeposits, where basically it's going to set up an interlink between BSA National and the bank, and it's going to send these little micro deposits like 6 cents and 9 cents or whatever to their account. Last year, we had lots of units that did the got that message, and I actually I processed the recharter for my own unit, and I'm going to tell you exactly the process that I went through. I got to the end. I clicked on pay with an e-check. It said it's going to send me these micro deposits, and it did. And then I hit at the bottom to submit. And then I got an email that said, from National that said, oh, I hit submit. It sent a note off to the COR to approve the charter. The COR did approve the charter. And then I got an email from National saying, success, you're complete. Well, I had previously had an email that said, you're going to get 2 micro deposits to your bank. You need to log into your bank account, see what those micro deposits are, and let us know what they are so that we can hook up your account. But then I got an email that said, success, you're complete. So what did I do? The last email I got said I'm successful and complete, so I ignored the micro deposits. Well, it turned out that the unit got, the transaction got frozen because it was waiting on these micro deposits. And we had about 80 units across the council that had that same experience. Last year was the first year that our council used this new system. My understanding from National is, as long as units are using the same bank they did last year, they probably won't go through the micro deposit system again, because the banks, that interface will already exist. But the message here is simply, if you get instructions to do something, make sure that you follow through and do those. If we have newer units or a unit that's changed banks or something like that, they may still have the micro deposit situation, and we'll just want to be sure that they're able to go through that process and get it taken care of quickly. It's again, these are all minor issues, but last year we had about 1/3 of our units that got a hiccup because of that particular issue. So anyway, with that, that's the high level on the recharter process. Again, this new recharter system is so much easier than the past system. I've heard from many different scouters and unit processors that have been doing this a long time that how easy and intuitive this system is compared to the prior systems. That's not to say that it's perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So really, again, as we wrap up for tonight, I want to summarize. Our goal is 100% recharter. We'd like everyone to recharter on time. That means that they have between June 1st and July 31st to get their recharter complete and get that early bird fee, as we were hearing about a little bit ago. We want to make sure that they use one of the online payment options. We want to make sure that they register folks online. And if they do all of these things, the process should be pretty smooth. And there's no reason that a unit shouldn't start their recharter process tomorrow or last week. Start those first steps of reaching out to your membership, doing that unit assessment, who's staying, who's going to continue, start collecting your payments and that sort of thing, so that when we get into the recharter window, units are pretty much ready to rock and roll and move forward. Keith, you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of I think this is most often happen with the Cub pack. So say the Cub master from this past year is not going to be coming back, and they wrangle some new person that maybe wasn't registered before. So you're saying don't add them to the charter renewal system, do it separately as an online application.
Yep.
Is that going to then affect the PAC's ability to get the charter to be completed because they won't have that Cub master there on the charter renewal?
They will be on the charter renewal. They'll just be listed as a.
Okay. So
They'll
be listed as somebody that's already paid, and
they'll be
there's no
listed as
fee.
a zero fee member.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah. Yes,
Thank
because you're
you.
right. If they weren't on the charter, then you wouldn't have the unit minimum adults, and that would be a problem. But they should be on there. What they need to do is register online, let that process, give it overnight to process, then go ahead and hit that refresh roster, and it'll pull them in, and they'll be listed as a $0.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, quick question,
Eric, yes.
based on what I'm saying, so there's credit card, e-check, and then no payout on the council thing. I know I got that. So what's the difference between credit card and e-check? Ideally, I would imagine e-check if that's the bank accounts for that troop, correct?
Right. So the difference between the credit card and the e-check, the credit card has a 3% processing fee. The e-check has a flat $1 processing fee. So if you have a $1,000 recharter bill based on all of your membership, your adults, your youth, your Scouts Life, your recharter fee, etc. If you pay with a credit card, you're going to be hit with a 3% fee, which, it's not outrageous, but it's not. I mean, we're talking about Scout units. They probably aren't sitting on mountains of money. So being good stewards of money, if you have the ability to pay a $1 fee, that's better financially than paying a 3% fee. But a 3% fee in any event is going to be better than a $25 a person fee. Any other questions? Right. And thanks to Davis for putting all the good info there in the chat. Reminder again, Grand Canyon BSA, grandcanyonbsa.org/recharter. You can type this into a browser and you'll find this page right there today. Later on, after the 1st of June, Kathy will add the link to the real-time update for unit status. That's really useful for commissioners. But meanwhile, lots of good information here, and you should be able to find on the National Council support page, you'll find the Internet Recharter guidelines that I just went through tonight. Now, I will just say, particularly for folks that are new, most councils recharter on a calendar year, the 1st of January through the 12/31. So if you look at the national page, you might see reference to rechartering happening in December. We just have to transpose, all the information is the same. We just transpose it to our recharter year, which is August 1st to July 31st. So just a minor little point, but you'll find right here these tools that I was going through about the internet recharter system that's available for you as well. Any last questions? Otherwise, I want to thank everyone for your time and wish you all a good night. We'll have another session like this at Roundtable, and we will also post the video from this session here on the Recharter page, I believe. So thank you all for your time, and thanks for all you do for scouting.
All right, all.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Davis.
Thank you, learn a lot.
Well done, sir. Thank you, Jacob.
No problem. Thank you.
Cool. Well, if anyone has any more comments, throw them in quick. Otherwise, I'm hanging up the meeting for everyone.
You know what I did do is I just copied, you can also, or you can download the chat so you have that on file and go to your Zoom file.
Yep. Yeah.